Welcome to the Savvy Leader Podcast, real conversations about the grit, grace, and gratitude it takes to be the savvy leader you were always meant to be. Welcome back to another episode of the Savvy Leader Podcast. I am really excited to have Sarah Becker with us today. She is process ninja. I love that term. I just think it's fantastic. Of Clear Simple Business, her own company, where she steps into medium to large to all kinds of businesses to help them with their processes, identifying shortcomings and inefficiencies. She steps in and literally integrates herself into their world. And as if that wasn't fascinating enough, she has also branched out into some other incredible passions, and I have to step in and support her on this because I'm always looking for people to shine a light on. Sarah, thank you for being with us today. I'm excited to hear about how things are going with you and your business, how your ninjas are going. I was thinking of a better word, like I wanted to say something far more clever than that, but I didn't. And I'm excited to hear about your passions. I saw it online and I really wanted to learn more and learn how I could better support you. Tell us about yourself, how you landed here, and what you got coming up.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be on the podcast. As always, it's great anytime that I get to interact with you. So thanks for inviting me. And like you said, I'm process ninja. Like my main business is Clear Simple Business, where I go into organizations and really help to create clarity out of the chaos that is so many small to large organizations. I don't think any organization is really immune to kind of some of that chaoticness. And when I say process improvement, a lot of people kind of have blank stares and they politely nod and smile like, yep, I know exactly what you're talking about. But the best way I've found to describe it is really thinking of it kind of in the physical world. Like if you think of Chipotle or Subway or something where it's the process is right in front of you and you can see it and it makes perfect sense. Like, tortillas come first and then the rice and beans and then the meat. And you can easily see that layout. And there's a lot of efficiencies there. Order makes perfect sense, how all the employees interact, the chicken in the back being marinated and cut up and ready right when it runs out makes perfect sense because you can physically see what's going on. However, in this day and age, 99% of a business's processes are digital. And so you can't actually see it. So what I find is that when I go into organizations, the tortillas are in 3 different places and the meat is at the end instead of at the beginning. And then there's like strawberries and blueberries and things that have nothing to do with building a burrito are mixed amongst it. So the workers have to, bounce over all of those things that have nothing to do with their job in order to get their job completed. And there's chaos. They're running into each other. The chicken runs out in front. And that is when the person in back starts to marinate the chicken. So if you're the person in line who wanted chicken, now maybe you have to wait 10 hours to get it. And that's what I tend to see in the business world, just because it's all digital and people can't see necessarily the handoffs and what they're doing and how that impacts the other team. And so I come in just to help get that Chipotle, get it all lined up. Like sometimes it's as simple as having conversations and actually documenting the process so people can see it and say, oh yeah, that is what we do. And then once you have that kind of documentation and the agreement of like, yep, that's what we do, then we drill into those pain points of, well, here's something's not working here. And then it's actually sitting down with the folks, watching them. How are you doing your work to see, okay, what can be improved? How can it be made better? Using typically the software that those organizations already have versus bringing in a new shiny software that a lot of folks incorrectly think is just going to solve all of our problems. But kind of my thought on that is bring in a shiny new software. It's going to look prettier, but if you're going to lift and land the same process into that new software, it's still going to be the same process. It's still going to have the same messes. And so really just focusing on identifying the process, using the systems and tools people already have, and creating efficiencies there. Because, I mean, even just using Excel, I've changed processes from 3 days to 2 hours. So there's so much you can do with the technology that is already there. So that's kind of process improvement in a nutshell and how I work with organizations there.
I love that analogy of the burrito. Who
Yes.
cannot relate to how that works and being able to watch that process and your ninja skills. That was the word I was trying to think of that you made it. That simple little word. But
Yeah.
I love that analogy. And I think that that really drives home what it is that you do and the way that you look at things in such a simple, clear and simple, perspective. You're like, look, the strawberries belong over there, and the chicken should have been marinating hours ago.
Yes.
But to think about it in that ABCD, that the way that you lay it out is, I think, so enlightening for so many people. And in addition to that, the way you talk about it's not just buying a new product or implementing a new software because the process isn't going to change and a new fancy software isn't going to change your process. It's just going to, I don't know, complicate things almost.
Yeah.
It'll make it prettier, it might make it fancier, it might give you different reports, but it's still going to be the process where you have the breakdown and that
Hmm.
skill that you have to identify the breakdown and where it's happening and then to help efficiently correct that. Now, share a little bit about what that process looks like. I mean, the burrito analogy is fantastic, but when you step into an organization, do you do like an initial consultation or how do you help them work through that initial steps so that you can then, because not everybody likes change. And I would
Yes.
imagine when you step into the picture, there's going to be a few eye rolls and, okay, great. She's going to change everything and I'm going to hate it. So share a little bit about how that all works out for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So typically it starts, kind of high level with the leaders where we just have a conversation with, tell me what happens, step 1 to step 10 or whatever you have. Just tell me what's going on, how the process works, where the pain points are. And we just have kind of a simple discussion that can be an hour, maybe 2 hours. Typically, it's not a crazy half a day to a day. Sometimes people, when they have issues that have been, plagued them for so long, they think this is such a big issue and the solution needs to be even bigger. But a lot of times, it can be a few hours conversations and you can kind of identify where you can make some big impacts. So it's having that conversation and then creating that clarity and documentation of, okay, from what you told me, here is what I see the process is. And typically that's, a process map. And so many organizations, don't even have that down. And so that's that first step to creating that clarity and that being able to visualize the process. And then, so that's kind of just that initial consultation of, all right, what do we have going on here? What do we want to fix? And then we can build out a plan from there with kind of a timeline, how many teams need to be involved, and which areas are the biggest pain point. We may not necessarily start with step 1 in the process and work our way to step, 10. It may be, this step 7 is our biggest pain point. It's where we're having the most issues. And so then we drill down into that area. And it's actually sitting with the folks who are doing it. And so that's part of the change management piece is actually having conversations with the people who are doing it because one, they know what's going on the best and they have some of the greatest ideas on how things can improve. And so that is one way of getting them involved and helping them through the change because there is going to be anxiety around the change. And really a lot of times when I come in, a feeling I get is, we've talked about this for years and we've told other people the problems and we've told other people a solution and then nothing changes. And so it's getting past that, just overwhelm or feeling of like nothing's ever going to be better. We've tried this before. And so that's where we kind of look at finding some of those quick wins where we can really show like, hey, we can go from here to here. And so it's building quick prototypes of, okay, here's the process, here's how I see it can improve and why, and always including those doers in on those conversations and not just the leaders. The leaders are great and they have wonderful ideas. However, when it gets down, the devil's in the details, and they don't always, nor should they know, all the details of what's happening on a day-to-day basis. And so including those folks and then including them on each of the iterations and allowing them to say, no, I can never see this working ever. And then asking why and getting their feedback and then making changes so they can kind of see like, oh, okay, they are listening to us and understanding and making changes accordingly. And so that can sometimes be some of the missed pieces in process improvement is really involving those doers at the beginning versus, hey, we have a new process and now you just need to go do it. So I really push and make sure the leaders understand, like, no, these people need to be involved initially because they're the ones who are going to be doing it. They're the ones who have the best ideas. They're the ones who know it the most. And so let's get them involved. And that you're still going to have people who just absolutely do not want to change, but including them kind of helps them move through, those levels of change a little bit easier, faster.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially if there's a long-term, implementer involved in the group, and maybe they even develop the process, the current process themselves. So there's a little bit of, pride in there or just ownership of things that are going on. And I suppose there's a few feelings that you have to work through sometimes. And do you find though, when you step in, are you like kind of this in-betweener? So you get to neutralize, between the employees and the implementers and the doers, between the leadership. Do you get to kind of, maybe de-escalate some of that tension? Do you find in those conversations and that process?
Yeah. Yeah, I do find myself kind of being the mediator sometime. And coming in as a third party is like I don't have, any loyalty kind of to either side. So it's easier for me to deliver some of those possibly harder messages than an internal person can. And seeing it with a fresh set of eyes and being empathetic. It's like I'm not coming in and saying this is the worst process in the world. It's more there's always opportunities to improve. It's like I create a process, a year ago if I created something and I look at it now, it's going to be drastically different. That doesn't mean the process was terrible initially. It's just that I've lived and learned and things have changed and I evolved the process along the way. And so that tends to be one of the missing pieces that a lot of organizations, it's kind of we built it and it stays and they don't necessarily let it evolve. And so that's part of catching up. So it's never like this is terrible and how have you been able to survive with this process? It's, well, we could just do it slightly better. And, what about this idea?
So smart. And being that unbiased mediator, like you said, is, I think, so important to maintain the teamwork and also those, to save those relationships, because I'm certain that by the time they get to the point where they finally call someone, an expert like yourself, to come in and really help, there has to have been some tension prior to, because deadlines were missed or things didn't go right and something's got to get fixed. So it's great that you're able to do that and you've got the right personality, just kind of this calm, unbiased person to step in and look at things logically and take all the feelings out of it and
Mm-hmm.
just kind of determine the best next step. So I think that's just fantastic. But I just always have loved the way that you approach what it is that you do. Share with us a little bit about where you developed this approach and maybe a little of your history and how you kind of came about discovering this unique skill in yourself.
Right. Yeah. It actually, I just found that I naturally did it when I worked within the corporate world. And I thought that everyone did it. So I didn't think it was anything unusual. And I loved doing it. Like it was so much fun. I would say I never met a process that I didn't improve because it was just that like that stubbornness and that always wanting to learn and do things differently. I don't do very well with doing the same thing every day. So that I just found out that that's kind of what I did once I got into the business world. But when something comes easily to you, you think that everyone does it. And so I didn't realize it was a unique skill until I was in the corporate world, and it was most likely that I was going to get laid off within the next year or so. So I was kind of interviewing at different places, but it didn't quite feel right. It was like, you know, my MO was I get in a new role, I get really excited because it's something new, and then I find efficiencies, and then I typically would transition a 40-hour per week role down to like 20 hours or less. And so then I would kind of get bored and then want to move on. And not everywhere, do you have a lot of opportunities to move on. And so some of the places I was interviewing were smaller organizations where it's like, okay, if this big organization I'm at can't necessarily keep me busy, these smaller ones probably won't. They probably won't have as many opportunities for me to move around. So I thought of another plan B, and it was I always felt like I should own my own business, but never knew quite what in because I have such a, diverse, so many diverse interests. And with these process improvement skills, it's kind of like, well, I could kind of create any business because I'd figure it out because I'm, stubborn and there's Google and people you can talk to. And so when it was like, I don't think going and being an employee at another organization is the right thing for me, I started to look at like, okay, I'm at a large corporation that has a lot of top talent. Like, what have I done here that's unique and that other people haven't done? And that's when I realized there was this process improvement stuff because within that organization, I had worked in marketing, accounting, and then I ended up in the IT area. So very different spaces. And it wasn't that I knew anything about marketing. I didn't know what a profit center was until I got into the accounting world. Like that's not what made me successful in each of those roles, like actually knowing kind of the logistics, I guess, of marketing or accounting, but it was that I could get into a position and I could improve it and I could take on projects and work through all those projects and work with a diverse group of people. Like even within this organization, I was working with the doers and all the way up to the leaders and crossing multiple teams depending on, a process improvement thing that I was doing. So I was already doing it within there and realizing that if there was a team of 80 that I was on, maybe there was one other or two other individuals within that team that just naturally did kind of the same thing. I realize that the vast majority of employees, they get trained on a process and assume that that's the only way you can ever do it, and they just do it, even if it's painful. Whereas if I was trained in on a process and it was painful, my initial thought was there's no way in hell I'm ever doing it like that again. And I would figure out how to not do it like that again, like the next month and then the next month and then continuously improve it. So that's when I realized like, okay, this organization gets a ton of top talent. There are very few of me's in there. So if you have a smaller organization that, has 50 people or maybe even 200 people, there's a good chance that no one within that space does this naturally. And knowing that it was even within large corporations, it was drastically needed.
Wow. Was that just like the huge light bulb moment for you when you were working through this and kind of thinking about, looking for a different job and I mean, it sounds like you kind of went through this process yourself, but
Yeah.
but did it really just like all of a sudden resonate with you, or was this something that kind of came to light a little bit slower, do you feel like?
I think it resonated with me of like, oh, this is a unique skill. But then I did struggle a while with valuing that skill, like taking money for that skill because it didn't feel right. It's like, but I really enjoy this and it's easy for me. Like there was still kind of this disconnect in my mind of like, well, how can I charge for something that comes easily to me and really truly understanding the value and still thinking that the unique things that I bring weren't necessarily aha moments. And it took a while for me to realize like, no, these it may seem like an obvious thing to me just because that seems to be how my brain works, but these people need me to say it because it's not obvious to them. And really finding the value in the work was definitely a struggle when I first got into like owning my own business. And it's so drastically different than being an employee and selling yourself and selling like I'm essentially selling my brain. And so it's not, like a tangible thing where you can say, well, it costs this much to make this item, so I'm going to sell it for this much. It was just a kind of a very weird place for me to be in and was very confusing for a long, long time, actually.
I bet. And I think though that what you're going through is got to be really common among so many just, because we're we're humble human beings and thinking about putting a value on something that just comes innately natural to us feels hard. You feel, what's the because you just don't see the value because it didn't cost you anything to obtain it.
Right.
It just is inherently in you, but that's your special gift. And, I think it's incredible that you found it and that you've been able to actually grow a business out of it and a successful one at that, to the point that you're in control of your time, you're in control of your days, you get to choose the clients that you want to work with, and you get to move through the world in a way that is fulfilling to you because it's tapping into something that comes so natural to you and being able to embrace that and be proud of that. Talk a little bit about how you did go about what was the process of valuing it though? I mean, I think a lot of us struggle with determining that value. And did what was the process you went through to decide what to charge people?
Yeah. Part of it was kind of looking at the ROI and just understanding and being able to show, like, even just on time, like if we change a process from 1 hour to 20 minutes, what does that look like for that organization over the course of a year? It's like it could be I'm working on an Excel file for an hour, but that can change it from an hour every week for someone to 20 minutes. And you calculate that out over the course of the year. And it has a big impact on that organization, people's time, where they can now spend their energy. So being able to put kind of time and numbers to it and owning that too, and not kind of like my MO too was kind of like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. The give everything and not get anything in return tends to kind of be a Midwestern, maybe German German thing that
Maybe,
I
yeah.
yeah, that I kind of grew up with. So it was really seeing the value and then also
Mhm.
like having those reactions and having people say like this change made a huge impact on my life and now I can do it's not necessarily that they're maybe working less but they can work on more fulfilling things so that helped a lot.
That's important. And I just think it's whenever I speak with someone who has clearly identified their value in their business and how to price things and whatever it may be, I think it's important to just kind of revisit that each time because it's one of those things that's so puzzling to people and it can be hard to wrap their head around and then really own that. And
Hmm.
recognize that we have value in many ways, but when you're looking at a specific price, um, eh, going through the process of determining what your value is in that perspective is tougher than
Yeah,
some things.
right.
Oh, so tell us a little bit about what's your day to day look like? I mean, I mean, I've heard a little bit of a glimpse about how you go about this process, but what does your day to day look like, whether it be at home or whether you're stepping into businesses or, I mean, what does it look like to step into another company and help them create efficiencies?
Right. Yeah. For me, it's always exciting. Like exciting to meet the new people. It's almost always a new industry too. So it's that learning, meeting people, personalities. I like to get to know people, kind of joke around and just have fun and put people at ease. I'm also only 5'2", so I'm like, I think there's a reason I'm only 5'2". Be like small and unassuming helps to like create kind of
Yep.
this safe space of like, okay, she's safe, we can tell her things and it's all good. So that's fun. And like you said, that can be sometimes in person, sometimes online, but just very, very flexible. So then it gives me time to be at home, do my own thing. I enjoy working out. I found Burn Boot Camp, if you know any Burn
Oh,
Boot Camps.
I do. I've heard of
Yes, my
it.
favorite place because like I said, when things are the same for me, I get really bored. Burn Boot Camp is always different every day. Someone tells me what to do. They push me. So that's a big part. Like being active is a huge part for me. So having that flexibility to be able to work out every day, not have to get up at 4 a.m. in order to do it is helpful. Still be around my kids. I have a 13-year-old, 11-year-old, and then a 2.5-year-old. So the older ones keep us busy running
Hmm.
around with their various sports. We're just finishing up the hockey season. They both play hockey. And then we'll be transitioning. My son will be doing baseball, my daughter lacrosse. And so the little one just gets drug around
For
everywhere.
now.
For now, yes. And then it'll be her turn. Then
Yep.
at least the older ones will be closer to being able to drive themselves. So maybe we'll just have
Yeah.
one that we have to get to and from practice. And then I also
Cool.
play my own sports still. So I grew up
Oh.
playing hockey, played hockey in college, still play on a women's league. And then I play sand volleyball in the summer. So
Holy moly, look at you.
yeah,
You
yeah,
are all over the board. I think that's fantastic. I had no idea that you were just so engaged in the community, but it makes sense in relation to what we're going to talk about next. But I just wanted to mention that it sounds like what you do with process improvement, you can literally step into just about any business and help improve processes. You know, big, small, tech, finance, all the things, products, services, everything in between. You can step in and you can help people. So no one should ever feel like you're not a fit. You're always going to be someone who can step in and create efficiencies to help them save money, which in turn improves their bottom line. So it's a huge
yes,
investment, but a well worthwhile investment, I think. And any kind of conversation with you about that, um, could only be a betterment for their company. So for any businesses feeling like they could, where can they scrape to pull some more money together to improve their bottom line? An investment with you, I think, would be just incredible to help with that performance.
yeah.
Share us a little bit about, so one last thing about that. Did you have any influencers or mentors along your journey before you discovered yourself and your gifts, or were all these things just kind of coming to light through you?
Yeah, I mean, actually, the biggest influencers have been more kind of on the personal development, like mindset side and just understanding some of those like fears or uncertainties that came up and being able to dig into the like finding my own value, really honestly, versus kind of on the business side. Because that was the biggest part of where, like I said earlier, it's like I'm selling my brain. So it's very different and finding that value within myself was a huge part of it. So yeah, kind of those any of that mindset work
Hmm.
is just huge to understanding yourself, understanding the people
Hmm.
around you, understanding how people react to you and not necessarily taking it personally really helps it, in my case where I'm going in and can sometimes really bring up some strong emotions in folks and being able to kind of take that and not necessarily absorb that, but understand it. I guess be a bit more neutral about
Hmm.
it.
That's enlightening and it's a very smart perspective. And it sounds like just the tone of your voice, you're reflecting while you're thinking about it and how far you have come and how
Yeah.
things have shifted for you. And I'm sure that they've all, the results have obviously been positive for you. So congratulations. Good for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. It's been a
Mm.
lot.
I bet it's always a journey and
Yes.
every journey is different. No question. And sometimes you got to restart those journeys.
Yes. Yes.
And then with that, though, so you now learning about how engaged you are in the community and in the sports. Okay, I'm really excited to hear about your latest endeavor. I'm not even going to give a sneak peek. I just want you take this and you tell us all about what you have going on right now.
Yes. Yeah. So I've really delved into the hockey world. So the women's hockey world, the female hockey world, kind of the hockey moms, um, female players, adult female players. This is the second season where a friend and I have coached an adult women's hockey team of newbies from their mid 20s into their, mid 50s, and just love it and love the community. They've built such a solid community within their team, and that's one of the biggest pieces that is seems to be so unique to hockey. Like just that strong community, even with my kids' teams, like they play baseball and lacrosse, but the hockey community is just so much stronger, so much more together, I guess.
Why do you suppose that is?
Part of it is because you spend so much time with each other.
Mm.
Like it's
Mm-hmm.
not like when I go to volleyball, I can show up a minute before the game starts. I don't have like I take my sandals off and I hop onto the court. Whereas with hockey, you have to get all your gear on. So, typically people get there a half hour beforehand to get dressed. So you have that community, that conversation. Another thing is it's a very hard sport and it's very fast. It brings up a ton of emotions. And so you almost need that support just to help you get through. It's chaotic. It's not hit the ball and run to first. It's the puck can go anywhere on the ice and you have to read and react off of where the puck goes, off of where your teammates are going, what they're doing, which way they're turning determines which way you should turn and how you should adjust your body and how the other team it's just it's a very fast, aggressive, chaotic sport. And so I think just that uniqueness and the kind of doing something hard together brings that community. It just creates a tighter community, is my guess. I don't.
That's your experience, nevertheless. And
Yeah.
I never would have thought about that. As I'm thinking about everything you've talked about so far, it makes complete sense. What position? So you coach a team. Do you also still play?
Yep.
And
Yep.
what position do you like to play?
I like to play forward. No team wants me playing defense. It's like I'll play wing, center, anything. Nowhere. I do not play goalie. It amazes me that adult women who start later in life and who choose to play goalie. It amazes me. That's the hardest position, both like physically and mentally. But yeah, I love playing forward. I play on a women's team. I just started playing on the first ever co-ed team that I've
Wow.
yeah. So I dabbled in that thanks to another female. So I coached with my daughter within the youth organization, and one of the other females was joining this team and talked me into it. It's like, okay, I'll try. I've had like hockey, I've had a love-hate relationship with it just because as a female, never necessarily felt like I fully belonged in the sport.
Mm.
There were a lot of messages growing up. So I grew up kind of on the forefront of women's hockey when it was starting. So the messages I absorbed the most were kind of that negative, like it's not real hockey because you can't check and you're never going to be as good as the boys. And if you take the best, female hockey player and the best male hockey player, the, best male hockey player is always going to win. So it always felt like I was trying to prove myself, where it's like I have to be the best in order to be acknowledged as a good hockey player versus just being able to be a good hockey player at the level that I was at. So definitely had a lot of insecurities around the sport when I was playing. A lot of those came up when I started coaching my daughter, where I didn't feel like I was good enough to coach 5-year-olds. um, which I also started a podcast with a fellow female coach called Two Women Who Give a Puck. And so she shares her story growing up and playing. And then I think it's the third episode is my story. So if you're interested in learning more of those like kind of specifics and how I work through all of that, you could go and check out that
I
episode.
absolutely will. And from what you're describing, though, I think hockey sounds to me like it's a lot more than just, swatting the puck around on the ice and who can
Yes.
get it into the goalie, who can score the points, and then who's got the hardest check.
Yes.
It seems to
Yes.
me that there's a heck of a lot more going on there. And you've tapped into that. And I love that you held on to that. That speaks to such perseverance and, you know, just the whole concept that you're so willing to do that and put yourself out there and be the forward in this community of women's hockey. I applaud you for that. Good for you. Such
Yeah.
inner strength that takes. But I'm really intrigued now to I'll be listening to your story, no question, and I'll put a link in the description for others to find that too.
Yep.
But I saw that you were doing another podcast, and Two Women Who Give a Puck, and you've got another organization that you launched. Share us a little bit about those two things that you have going on. How did they start, and what's your mission?
Yeah. Yeah. It's really getting more females into the game and making sure that those females understand that they belong. Like from the girls who are 5 to the women who are 60 who are playing, just helping them understand that they belong because it is such an amazing sport, both physically and just mentally. Like there's so much to it that is of value. I wanted to walk away multiple times just because it has been hard, but there's something about the sport and females being in the sport and my daughter seeing that it's a safe space for her that are they're just so important to me. And so that's one of the reasons why launched a podcast. My co-host is another female coach who I asked to join me thinking that she'd say hell no, because she's also kind of like introverted like me and not necessarily someone you would think would put themselves out there. But she said yes. And I was like, okay, then I guess we're doing this. And it's been great. We've had so many different stories but really just want everyone to see it's a space for them, but then also talk about like it's it is a very sexist space. And that's just not just coming from us, but a lot of research around it. We had Coaching Her on, which is out of the U of M, University of Minnesota, that does research on girls and women in sports. And they've brought up like hockey is just one of the hardest spaces for women. And I had been feeling that, but it was kind of validating to hear like, okay, it's not just me. And having more conversations with female coaches also has helped me not step down, helped me continue and really understand that importance and that community and knowing, okay, it's not just me who's having these feelings is helpful. And then so we have the podcast and then having the podcast and wanting to do more. Like honestly, the youth association I'm with was a very ugly place this year for a lot of people. And it kind of drove me crazy. And it's either I walk away, which isn't an option because my children love the sport, which is great. Unfortunate when you want to maybe walk away from it. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of either walk away or do something about it. And so I created the Hockey Village. Right now it's mostly a Facebook page, but I'm building it out to be a community, to have some online learning that helps to walk through some of the mindset, some of the equipment, like do I get a left-handed or right-handed stick? Oh, now I bought this stick and I'm supposed to cut it. Like it's supposed to be a specific length and that makes a difference. What size skates do I get? Because they're not the same size as shoe sizes. And so good at those like nitty-gritty specifics of the equipment. Because like when you play, you don't think of how odd some of this stuff is and how much someone has to learn. And so it's really right now I'm building out kind of that I'm an adult female hockey player just getting into the sport and building out all those tools, those mindset tools of like, no, you belong. This wasn't an opportunity for you growing up, but that doesn't mean it's not for you. It's meant for you. And then, getting into the specifics of the equipment, and then talking about the game and the positions and kind of the flow of the game. Because like I said before, it is unique where it's not run to first base, run to second base. It's, this organized, there is some organization to it, but when you're out there learning it, it just feels like complete chaos. So building out kind of that adult female player, helping them feel safe, creating a community around that safe space, and then also tapping into hockey moms. I think there's a lot of opportunities for hockey moms to feel more involved. And the importance of that is that their children, both their boys and their girls, see then that hockey can also be a space for more females. And then that can encourage just that more feelings of belonging for all the females around. More importantly for those girls, because there are a lot of hockey families who, live and breathe hockey, but only their sons play and not their daughters because they still don't see it as a sport for them. And so wanting to have an impact in that space and really influence and helping those hockey moms feel comfortable asking questions, learning the game, speaking intelligently about the game at the rink. And so that everyone involved in this community can start to see that it truly is a space for females as much as it is for the males.
Oh, such a community leader you are. Listen to you and all the beautiful things that you're building, and what a great cause. Like, I think it's something so few of us have even considered, in our day-to-day lives. Yes, our kids want to play sports, we want to support them and the things that they want to do. But taking that a step further and recognizing that, there doesn't have to be barriers between what it is kids want to do and what, is acceptable or however you want to look at it. And just thinking about all the energy and the effort that you're putting forth to help people feel included and welcome and just, inspired by everything
Mhm.
that you're doing. You've got such a full plate. You love sports, you love to work out. I mean, is that your restoration? Where are you getting, how are you keeping yourself from getting burned out?
Yeah, I sometimes I question that, but but I mean it is sports is such a great outlet for me. I do as chaotic as it is with the kids and then me also making sure that I continue to play. Like it gets busy, but I've found that I enjoy so I'm a bit more introverted, so it's like I need like one day a week of just me time, hanging out. But then if it's more than 1 to 2 days, then I start to get bored again. So so that's part of, I guess, my drive is as much as I need that downtime to restore, I also
Hmm.
need that community to be a part of
Hmm.
and yeah, those group activities, you're doing things that I love, like the sports. Yes, that fulfills me. Going to like an escape room and doing those kind of like team building things that maybe will drain me, but being out, in that space and just seeing people loving it as well and enjoying it. Yeah,
Hmm.
I
I
love it.
think too, those of us that lean more towards the introverted spaces when we're able to, like yourself, you've kind of put yourself into more of a leadership position. It allows you to be around people, but kind of more on your own terms.
Yeah.
I know I've found that it's like I love hosting parties. I don't always love going to parties.
Yes.
So being a part of the team, yeah, I'm a team player. At the same time, I'm better suited, you know, in the leadership position, not because I'm great at telling everybody what to do, but I'm just more comfortable there. And then it allows, whatever strengths I may be able to provide to shine. So,
Yeah.
I think that that's really interesting. And, of course, those of you that love going to the gym, I'm not a gym girl. I've tried, so don't even look at me. People have said that I know the one statement that always rings through my head is people who say they don't like to work out don't work out. That's right. We don't work
Right.
out.
Right.
Doesn't mean I don't like to ride a bike or do things like that, but going to a gym is just not my thing. But I hear that there's a whole community there too.
Yes.
And you get to tap into that and do all of those things. So good for
Yeah.
you for recognizing where it is you can restore and protect your energy. What do you have coming on the horizon, or what are your hopes for the Hockey Village and for two moms or two women who give a puck?
Yeah. I mean, I'd love just two women who give a puck to you get that message out there, share different stories where more women can see themselves in the people that we interview. And then also more organizations can listen to maybe some of the harder feedback on the environment and start to look at their environment in a different way and understand where, okay, some of the things we do maybe aren't overly welcoming and maybe it's a good idea to change. Um, and so having those spaces and then really just building that community of like that safety in the sport and in learning and in growing and developing because a huge part of hockey, it's not just that physical. I can do inside outside edges, or I can shoot, or I can stick handle, or I can pass. There is so much mentally to the game that starts when you are on the ice with 4 and 5 year olds. It's less about teaching them hockey skills and it's more about like helping them mentally kind of get through the practice sometimes because it's strange and hard and your feet can hurt because this your skates are too tight or they whatever my helmet's off, whatever it is, it's a lot of kind of that mental side. And so parents having maybe a bit more empathy for their kids who are playing,
Mm, yeah.
having different conversations and hockey's a game of mistakes. You're
Mm,
constantly making mistakes. Like even watching the NHL, PWHL, there isn't a single player who goes out for a shift who doesn't make a mistake at least
mm,
once. A mistake kind of sometimes is it may not necessarily be a mistake, but if you are very critical of yourself or if you're very critical of your player, like your child, they're going to start to see it as mistakes. And then that can hamper their growth. Even if we just only want to talk about the sport, it can hamper their growth within in the sport. And so there are just so many life lessons that hockey can teach and parents understanding that and the culture being able to change to be kind of more empathetic, which is seen as more, feminine, and just
mm,
help the kids through it. So it's more of a positive experience versus,
mm.
high pressure, high stakes, high, um,
Yeah.
inner critic space,
Mm-hmm.
which I see a lot in the kids that I coach and then also the adult players. So a big part of it
Mm-hmm.
is helping them through all of those emotions, just accepting that there are a lot of emotions there.
Yeah.
So just really, I really want to be a part of that cultural shift because I think it's just so important in the space of sports and just in the world in general. And if we can use hockey
Mm,
as a tool to learn that, like that's going to trickle out into more areas in one's life. You're not going to just
Yeah.
be in that hockey bubble and I'm only going to learn and
Hmm.
change my reactions in this hockey bubble. I think it seems very silly that it's like it's a sport, but I think that can just be kind of ground zero of having so many changes and then just
Hmm.
being able to share my experiences too and how I've gotten through it, I think is part of the reason why I went through all of those things and why I've had all of my experiences and why I feel kind of pushed to be that leader in kind of that hockey mom, new to playing adult female hockey player space.
And so recognizing those complexities within the team and the sport is such a great life lesson for young people. It's
Yeah.
once they're, I mean, teamwork, it's more than just, the basics of understanding the skills. It's that mental piece of it that you keep driving home and that you keep trying to bring to light and keep, attaching more awareness to that I think it's life, it's going to build so many great life skills for the young people that get engaged with it and are coached by someone who sees it that way. So
Hmm.
again, good for you. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very excited. It's very new, but
Yeah.
check it out. I'm
Yeah.
excited. Interact with me. Let me know. Being someone who's
Okay.
played hockey for 30-ish years, even though I'm only 32. No. But it's
Nice
like,
try.
yeah, it's worth a try, right? We got the
Yep.
20-year-old filter on, right?
Yeah, yep. Oh yeah, always. Zoom has great filters.
Right.
No question.
Yeah. Yeah,
Awesome.
but so much you don't think of like
Hmm.
question like kids question too, or even my adults when I say certain terms, they're like, so what does that mean? It's like, oh yeah. At one point I actually had to learn what that term meant. Now it's just part of my
Yeah,
vocabulary and I don't even think about that. People
yeah,
outside of the sport may not know what, you know, look for the points means.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
Very cool. All right. So, before we wrap it up, you got to tell me, is there anything that you know now that you wish you had known then when you first launched your business or when you were thinking about launching a business or even the podcast or opening yourself up to this broader village community, hockey village community? What do you want people to know about that to help them stay inspired and keep moving forward?
Yeah, there are so many things that I think back on when I first launched my business. I guess the biggest thing that would have made life so much easier is just understanding that I have value, really, and that I can take up space and that I'm meant to be who I am and do things kind of my way, and that's okay.
Beautiful. Well said. Thank you. Okay, Sarah, where can we find you online? How can people get connected? And where can we find the Hockey Village and two women who give a puck?
Yes. So they both have websites. So twowomenwhogiveapuck.com, thehockeyvillage.com. There are Facebook pages for both of them. For sure, the Hockey Village, that's kind of where most of the content is and where I've been putting most of my energy so far has been the Facebook page. So that's where I would probably go first.
Okay.
And then, yeah, they also, yeah, two women who give a puck at gmail.com. You can
Okay.
find me there. Sarah at thehockeyvillage.com is the email I have for that one. It's Sarah with an H. That is
Well, yeah,
important,
thank you
son.
for clarifying. That
Yes.
matters.
Yep. Yeah. But yeah, I would love people to interact, ask
Okay.
questions, and then I can kind of develop content from there.
Hmm. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here today, for sharing such incredible insights. I loved hearing your journey all the way from start to not even quite yet finished, but you've come so
Right.
far. Looking back on your past, did you ever think you'd be here 20 years ago?
No,
Oh,
no.
yeah, pretty amazing. Good for
Yep.
you. Thanks again for being here. I'll put all the links to where people can find you in the description, and I'll just look forward to talking with you again. We'll have to connect and see how things are going a few months down the road. I'm excited.
Yes, yes. Thank you for so much for having me. It's great. Great to have a conversation with you as always.
Oh, thanks. All right. Thank you. Thanks for listening to the Savvy Leader podcast. Be sure to check out the description for any relevant links and additional details that we might have shared throughout this week's episode. And if you're looking to continue this conversation, we'd love to see you over at the Savvy Leaders Lounge on Substack or the Savvy Living Network for additional insights. That's savvylivingnetwork.com. We'll see you there.